Hey everyone, what's up? This is Simon from DevDectic with a new tutorial on something you actually requested. And this time we're going to talk about files. So files and the path on the native system can be complicated with Ionic sometimes. And today we want to dive completely into this and build a file explorer. So what we're going to do is we will build a multi-level file management where we can create folders, where we can create files, where we can move files, where we can copy them, where we can delete them, and open them. So a lot of things to do. So let's dive right into this. I've already started a blank new app, and as you can see today, we will have my device right next to our coding view because we're going to use native plugins for basically everything. So I started a blank new app and I installed the Ionic native file package and the file opener, and for both also make sure that you install the according Cordova plugin, of course. What I did then is run Ionic Cordova run iOS. I also want to get the console logs. I want to have live reload on the device and the address, which was kind of needed because otherwise it didn't really work. But once you do it like this, you can actually get a live preview, and you will see this once we update something. So make sure that you got everything installed. Perhaps you need to run Xcode and set the profile once before doing this, otherwise you might encounter errors. For Android, this should also work, of course, with Android and your connected device. So let's close this and not save it. And then go to the app module where we have to import the file and file opener package. Make sure that you got ngx with Ionic 4 and add them to the array of your providers. And then we actually don't need any files. We will reuse the view for the different levels of our Explorer. The only thing we need is the HTML and the TypeScript file. And I will bring in some snippets from time to time just to make sure that I don't make any typos, because this is really a bit complicated. Anyway, oops, that was not my intention. Let's get this back up like this. And to see that the live reload works, let's hit save. And then on the console, we will see the recompiling, and on here we will see the live. The thing is, if you want to test Cordova plugins like we do in this video, it's really hard to build, then deploy, test, and do this over and over again for so many steps. So make sure that you got your environment configured so you can use live reload on a device. Actually, this really saves a lot of time. Anyway, actually we forgot about one file, which is our app routing. And in here we already see the syntax from Angular 8 for the home path, which is now the default. And I will simply use the home page once again, but this time I will append folders. So we will be able to navigate to home with an additional folder as well. We will see how this works later, of course. But for now, let's get started. I added quite a few imports already. You can see them up here from the packages that we installed. And then in our init, we should first of all check if our platform is ready. Because if we directly make the call to the file plugin, that's not going to work very well. You should always wait for the plugins to be ready, at least with Cordova. Also, I created something copy file, which is used later. Let's already add this before we forget about this, and should move. This one will indicate if we want to move or copy a file, and we will reset them in our platform ready. Actually, we should, I think, reset them somewhere else, but for now let's keep it like it is. And let's dive right into the first functionality of file, which is list dir. This one will list all the folders and files in a given directory, and we want to use simply the file the data directory. Yeah, that's the directory I use most of the time for my app-specific files. As you can see here, you can check out the other options on the page of the file plugin, of course, but the data directory is most of the time pretty fine. And then you should also append a dir name, and we will set this to an empty string in the beginning, and later on we will try, or actually all of this could be already copied somewhere. So let's create a load documents, as we need to reuse the code anyway. This .load documents, still called right in the beginning. So the data directory is just the standard directory, and then we need the real dir name. Let's use this .folder, will be simply empty right now. So then we get some result back, and this result, let's also log this out just to see how the structure of the files looks, and then let's use a directories array where we can append or insert all of our data, and there we go. So let's hit save for now, and actually the thing is that right in our logs we won't see a lot because we haven't added or created any folder. So I don't know if it's still up to date, but anyway, the problem is we are not able to see anything right now as there are no files. So live reload enabled. File, yeah, that's actually the first log from the file data directory. That's basically our application on iOS. On Android, this will look kind of similar, just with a different path, and that's our folder. We don't have to worry about this. You should never store this and simply use this, because this will always give you the real path if the OS for some reason moves around your folder. So let's get rid of this, and let's perhaps keep this. We got the load documents in here, and maybe we should start by creating two functions. So the first one to create a folder, and the second one to create a file. I will actually bring this in because it's a lot of code in here. Let's move a bit up to create folder. So we simply present an alert with an input in which we can put the name of the new folder. And once we hit create, this is actually the interesting part. We're gonna use again our file plugin and now call create directory. You can always find out which parameters you have to supply right in here. So we need the path, a new name for the directory, and if we want to replace any existing directory. So the path is simply our file data directory, and we append this .folder. We will set our folder later to a folder we navigate to, so that's an easy way to keep the path which we move along in our application. For now, you can simply imagine this as being like this in the first place. Then we got, of course, the name for the new folder, and we don't want to replace anything. And once we're done, we will simply reload the documents. The create file is basically the same. Maybe we could actually have put this into one function. Well, it's okay as well like this. So the only difference is that in here we got write file, again, same path, file name. I will just use txt file. You could write a JSON file, you could write everything you want, you can write images. And then for write file, the third parameter is actually a text, which you can see could also be a blob or an array buffer. So you could directly use the API response of your API, which maybe returns an image blob, and then put it and write it right into a file of your storage. For now, we will just have this text, and there we go. In order to use the functionality, we also need to change our view a bit. So I will just bring in the first part of the Ion Fab button. This will add a button right here, and now I have to think about that I use my device, and we see if we hit it, we can either create a folder, which is this icon, or a file, which is this one. Cool. Now, because we don't have the view right here, maybe we should do it. Yeah, why not do it? Let's add a simple list for now. Ion item ng for let f of directories, and then I think it's name author, something like this. Let's put this in Ion label, name, and perhaps native URL. So then we should be already able to see some files once we create them. So let's go ahead. I create a new file, test, and there we go. The file is on the screen. If I append text wrap, we should also see the full path. So let's see, and once the reload happens, hello, we're also able to see that, I think tabs grep goes to the Ion label, that all the files are really stored on the device. So this is not local storage, cache, whatever. It is really here. So let's do a second one, test2, and then we got 2 files. And let's maybe also create a folder, my folder. There we go. And then we see that we got 2 files in the node cloud, and then we got another folder in there as well. So that is pretty much already a great success. But now we want to, of course, take things a few steps further. So we want to navigate into the files. We want to open them, we want to copy them, and for all of this, I also added something and a little additional thing here, if we have no files, of course, which is an Ion sliding item. Let me bring this in instead of the item that we use right here. So this is the Ion item sliding. This one allows us to slide the entry into 2 directions. We will still use the same iteration. We will present an icon for the folder or document, whether the file is a directory or not, which we could actually now see from, based on our logs, which are triggered right in the beginning, we can see how an entry looks. Maybe I can just copy this out so you can see it in a bit better way. Interesting, yeah. Can I simply change this to JSON and then format? Oh, sweet Jesus. So these are the entries that you get back from list directory. Is file, is directory, kinda, I don't know why. The name, the full path, and the file system not really used, and the native URL. You see, for the text files, we got the name and path here. For the folder, it is just the folder. And the URLs, as I said, are exactly like this. So that's really only the basic information we can use in here, but still we can check if it's a directory or not. We can display some information, and then we can display a delete file option on the one side, or a start copy or a start to move on the other side. So we're gonna have to implement all of these functionalities in a second. I don't know, I think maybe the compile will crash now. I'm actually not sure. No. So this looks already a bit more like a nice explorer. We see the path, and at the top we could now also change to indicate on which page we are actually at into this dot, what was the name, folder? I think it was folder. So either folder is set, or we're gonna use Didactic Explorer. And now the item clicked will be one of the main functionalities that we have to implement. Let's create the other ones as well. Delete. And we also had start copy. So we got to do all of this. Okay, still a lot to do. Anyway, in terms of the view, actually, I think finished now. I knew that this was going to happen. Of course, this is just the reflector, and I have to work here. So we see that we got the delete on the one side, and on the other side we got copy and move. Okay, of course, they won't work yet. So, what happens if we click on an item? That's a very good question that you should ask right now. Actually, it's pretty simple, because if the item that we clicked on, which is a file of the type entry from Ionic native file, so if the file is a file In that case, we want to open it using our opener that we installed in the beginning. So in that case, we just have to call this.fileOpener open using the native URL and the right MIME type. So if you're working with JSON files or different types, perhaps the MIME type is different if you have a PDF, for example. If the folder, if the file or the entry, perhaps we should have called this entry, is a directory, then things get a bit more tricky. Because what we're going to do is we want to call the router and say navigate by URL. And we're going to navigate to /home/ the name of the folder. Okay, in theory, pretty easy. We could use file.name. The problem is once this here becomes my deep nested folder, this URL is actually wrong and we need to encode the components of the URL. And also we have to be a bit careful with the slash and in which places we add the slash. And to overcome this problem, we can first of all create our path based on if we currently add the root folder. In that case, we are simply using the new file name. If we already have something like folder is already folder 1, in that case, we're going to use folder 1 and append the slash, and then we append the file name. So deeper. This one now needs to be encoded using the encode URI component function, and then we can move to folder. So let's log this out. Okay, I hope that's clear. And then in here we need our /folder. So once we do this, we also have to take a little step back into the beginning, because now we have to think about how we reuse the page. And therefore in our ng on init, just like you're working normally with details pages, we can now use the activated route, snapshot paramap get folder, and we can set our own folder to this snapshot. If the snapshot or the data here is actually null, we can also simply set it to an empty string again. So let's log this one out. Past folder in init this.folder. Okay, so things will now get more interesting. Let's hit the recompile, and then we already see the initial log. Past folder in init is empty. That's good. Now what happens if I press on an actual folder? We see move to my folder and past to folder in init my folder. Actually, we haven't added a back button, which is a small problem now, because I think my app will... No, I can actually move back. That's good. I thought I was now stuck on that page forever. That would have been kind of bad for the tutorial. So besides our toolbar, let's add buttons. If our folder isn't the root folder, we're gonna add or actually show the back button. And now let's see what happens. So we're starting, we move to one folder, and let's create another folder deeper in here. And then we see this one is in my folder /deeper, and I can actually also go into this one, and at the top we see it. Now let's add maybe a third level. And there we go, you see the path. And now we could move back up through all the folders in that change to our deepest folder. So this logic took me quite a morning to implement. I wasn't sure if it would work actually to have this like generic and reusing one page, but as you can see, it works. So now we have the general structure in place. Let's see how far we are, 20 minutes, that's great. So we should hurry a bit up. We were at the item clicked functionality. Perhaps, yeah. Just to show you an example, past folder, I hope my head is not covering it. This is the URI encoded URL, so we are not passing this to the next page, but we're simply passing this. but the router params already translates this or decodes this into something that we can use. So we don't have to do it again at this point. Okay, I jumped quite around a lot what I had prepared for this. So let me see what we need to implement as well. We need the delete, which I can simply bring in. That's actually, I think, one of the easiest functions in here to delete a file. And yeah, I remember I created this one already. To delete a file, we just need to get the right data directory, which is again our general directory, and the folder we're currently in. So that's important. If we're already on level 2 in the application, we of course need to append this to the root path as well. And then in that directory, we just need to remove the file. So that's it for delete. For copy, it was a bit more tricky because for copy, you of course have to select one file or one folder and then another one. And I implemented it to be like, if you select the first one, so if you select copy or move here, we just start the copy. We save a reference to the file you selected. And also if we want to move or copy based on which button we click. And then we're basically in like a transition state in which we can also show a different color for our header. So let's just change the color. If copy file is currently set, then we want to show like secondary, and otherwise we will use primary. So this means whenever we start a copy operation, the tone or the color of the header will also change. So like this, copy. I think I should save both files. That would be great, I guess. And if we now start the copy, we see the header turns to a different color. So now we have to implement that once we click on an item and the copy operation is in progress, we're gonna have to perform something different. So that's where we have to go back to our item click, which is the one that will be called once I now click on something, because right now we're in the copy and then we actually haven't seen this, right? So this is what happens when you call the native file opener with just standard text. I skipped this pretty fast. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh no, oh no. Come back. Oh no. Oh good. Whew, I was able to escape that. So now we need to wrap all of this into another if statement, which is if this.copy file, which means we're currently in the selection phase. So only if this is not going on, we want to do the rest of this. So if this is copy file and we clicked on something, we should check if the second file that we selected is not a directory or is a file, however you want to do it. In that case, we should actually stop this and perhaps in my example, I did a little toast message, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that, of course, you copy to a folder. But if it's the case, then we will call this dot finish copy file to this file. Okay, let's implement this down here. And this one's again an entry. So this is actually now the last functionality that we need. What we need in here is, first of all, a path to the current folder we're in, because that's where we selected the file. And then the new folder, which is our current folder plus slash plus the selected file, which is a directory we made sure with the if statement .name. Perhaps we should also do some logging from path. Yeah, it's hard to type or spell a word with 4 letters. That's right. To new path. And what follows is pretty much really uninteresting. Because the only thing we need to find out now, and I will copy this because this code is just too, I don't know. If we want to copy a file, if we want to move a file, if we want to copy a directory or move a directory. So we got 4 options, and these 4 options are completely the same, only that we got move directory, move file, copy directory, copy file, based on if the copy file is a directory or if we should move or not. So really, it's completely the same all the time. And I think I used one more should be needed, right? Let's format this. Yeah, looking better now. So let's hit save and then we can check the logs once again. So updating, and there we go. So we see we got my folder which has one file. Let's use the test file and copy it to my folder. So I click copy, we're in the copy mode. Now I select my folder and then we see from file whatever to my folder. Actually there's a slash, but it still works, great. And the test file is here. Now for test 2, let's try to move it to my folder. The test file is gone and it is now in the second level here. So I could now also create, let's say, copy to me folder. Yeah, copy time, whatever. And we could now use this folder, which already contains like files, perhaps a document like this, and then use the deeper folder and move it to copy time. And now in copy time, we still find the folder. If you check the logs, you see all the right structures in here, my folder, deeper, third, all the things are working. If I go back, I can of course also delete my files and move around my file explorer with Ionic. And that's it for today. This was quite a lot of code. You can check out the full code below this video. I hope this gave a bit clarity to working with files and working with the paths. It is really not as tricky as you might think. So give it a try, run the example, see how you can build your great own file explorer. And I hope if you enjoyed it, you subscribe and leave a like to the video. And then finally, please also make sure to check out the Ionic Academy, my school, to help you with everything Ionic, just like we did in the videos. I hope to see you inside. I hope to see you inside the next video. Have a great day and then take care.